What's up, guys? We're here on Mythic Spoiler, looking at the new Kahns of Tarkir's spoiled cards. Um, I'm gonna start out with the lands. I'm just going through them, seeing what I think, and letting you guys know what's out there right now. So we got 5 fetch lands right now, of 5 different color combinations. I don't really think this was the right time to put out fetch lands necessarily, seeing as it's all about 3-color decks. Or wedges, as they call them. But I don't know what's in the rest of the set, so I can't really tell them what they're doing. So we'll start off by going through them. We have Windswept Heath, which is green-white, Flooded Strand, which is white-blue, Polluted Delta, which is blue-black, Bloodstained Mire, which is black-red, and Wooded Foothills, which is red-green. So, I mean, I'd say, honestly, I'm not a huge fan of fetch lands. I never have been. Because once you choose which color you want, you're stuck with that color. I mean, once you really figure out your land base, I'm sure they're great, but I just don't see how you need to pay the life to. I'm fine sticking with Skylands and Mana Confluence, stuff like that. So let's go up to the artifacts now. We have Lens of Clarity, which says you may look at the top card of your library and at face-down creatures you don't control. So that sort of leads me to believe that they're going to have a lot of, like, Morph, which we already know, and other things besides Morph that sort of have you play them face down for a few turns, and then they... I don't know what mechanics they would add, but I feel like that could be a card that gives you a lot of advantage in multiplayer games, if you're ever in those. There's also Dragon Throne of Tarkir. I feel like that's going to be a really important card. And it looks like they don't have the art set in stone yet, but they have the card itself. So it's equipment, and it says, equipped creature has Defender, and you can pay 2 and tap, and other creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is this creature's power. So I guess if you have like a 4/4, and it's not doing too much right now, it can't really attack into their blocker or something like that, you can equip it, keep tapping it, and giving your creatures +4/+4 and trample. So that's looking like a really good card. It's a little bit on the expensive side, but if you already have big creatures out that are going to do that for you, I think it could be pretty good. Next is a mythic called Ugin's Nexus. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's a legendary artifact for 5, and if a player would begin an extra turn, that player skips that turn instead. So that leads me to believe that there's going to be a lot of extra turns, or not really a lot, but they're going to be important in some of the colors. And if Ugin's Nexus would be put into a graveyard from the battlefield, instead exile it and take an extra turn after this one. So I don't think I'm all too excited about that card. It looks alright, and it looks like it could have some minor play, but it's not going to be a main board card, I don't think. I could be completely wrong, but alright. So now that we're done all the basic things that don't really fit into categories, I'm going to head up to the top and go through some of the color combos. So they've released a lot of the cons, I guess you can call them. I think that's what they're called. So they're all legendary creatures of the 3 colors, and they're looking pretty sweet right now. I run Junk, as you guys probably know, and so that's what the color combination I'm most excited about. I wasn't really expecting them to have it in here, but I'm not going to complain. I hope they have Naya too. Naya is what I'm looking forward to. Also, the bug looks really good. I do like that. But there's not really too many other ones I'm super excited about. So it looks like right now they're starting to reveal charms, which they're making 3-color charms again. That's going to be pretty fun. the Kahns and their enchantments, which are going to be the 3 color things. And each color combo has an enchantment, I think. So the junk one is Abzan Ascendancy, and they have red, white, black, which is Mardu Ascendancy, and then they have green, blue, red, which is Temur Ascendancy. And that's all I have right now. So I'm going to go through the junk colors and see what they've put in here, and stuff that I've already tested out in my decks, and see what these are looking like. So the legendary con for this, for these colors, is Anafenza the Foremost, and it's a 3-drop 4/4, which is pretty solid, especially in junk. That's probably going to fill in my 3-drop slot now, because I was looking for another one. When Anafenza the Foremost attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on another tapped creature you control. So I guess they're going to try and use that and Convoke together. That's the first thing I thought of. I don't think declaring attackers, I don't think that works. If you declare attackers, you can put a counter on attacking creature. I'm not sure. Let me know about that. But that looks pretty solid. And then its other ability is if a creature card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So that's going to work really well. Graveyard decks, anything like that. Yeah, sorry about my nose, guys. I'm a little cold. So now for the enchantment that I told you about, it's Abzan Ascendancy. And that's showing the picture that they had in the release of soldiers lining up. They had a bunch of different ones, different types of soldiers, and I guess every Ascendancy has sort of like a picture of the front line of their armies. So, Abzan Ascendancy looks pretty cool. I like it. And then, so it's 1 of each color mana for the enchantments. They're all rares. And it says, when Abzan Ascendancy enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So that's really solid on its own. It makes all of your creatures 1 mana bigger. I'm definitely going to want to run that. Plus, it says, whenever a non-token creature you control dies, put a 1/1 white spirit token onto the battlefield, and it has flying. So that is a really, really solid enchantment. I think that's going to be worth something. Yeah, I'm definitely going to try and get my hands on that and run it. Hopefully people are willing to trade. So these are the 2 cards, Anafenza and Abzan Ascendancy, that I'm really looking forward to running, as well as the new Sorin. That's going to fill in for Blood Baron for me, and then, or Whip of Erebos. I'm thinking it's Blood Baron since Whip is staying in standard. And then I'll find substitutes for these. And then we go on and we have some other stuff that fits in with this color combination. They kind of did it in columns, it looks like. So, they have Abzan Guide. That is a 6-drop 4/4, so that's a little sketchy to start with. It has lifelink, and it has morph, so it can actually be a 5-drop 4/4 if you want. You can get it out a little earlier. So, I don't know, I mean, I think it's a solid card. Its morph cost is 1 of each color and 2, where the regular cost is 1 of each color and 3. So it's 1 turn earlier, but I'm not a huge fan of it. Yeah, I don't really know. I probably won't run that. If I pull it, alright. No biggie. As we keep going down, we see Einok Bondkin, and that is a Hound Soldier with Outlast. I'm really liking the mechanic of Outlast because I'm seeing a lot of stuff that interacts with counters, and I'm into that. I like getting counters and stuff with abilities with it that affect it. And I really like its second ability, which is each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has first strike. So this is a 2-drop 2/1 that the next turn becomes a 3/2 first strike and on, and it gets bigger and bigger and keeps first strike. And then if I ever end up running that, if I get that out with Abzan Ascendancy, all my creatures will have first strike, and they'll be 1 power and toughness bigger than they were. So that's looking like a really fun card. I'm probably going to test it out, see how much I like it. I don't really think it might make it in. We'll really have to see about that. The next card is called Dune Blast. It is 1 of each color in 4. And it's a sorcery. It's pretty much the junk board wipe. It's choose up to 1 creature and destroy the rest. So I'm assuming you would choose the creature you want the most. And I'm really happy about this because I'm not going to run it. It's way too much mana in my mind. But if I keep a Reaper of the Wilds, I play a lot of multiplayer with a bunch of my friends, and almost all of them are creature-heavy decks. So I leave my Reaper of the Wilds, destroy the rest, get all those scries, and pretty much dig down to whatever I want in my deck. So that's looking really fun, but I don't really think I'm going to run it. It's just way too much mana. It does look like a good card, though. I don't think it'll be worth too much. The next card is Herald of Anafenza. So it looks like a little guy blowing a horn. And he's a 1-drop 1/2 with Outlast. And whenever you activate his ability, you put a 1/1 white warrior onto the battlefield. So that he's a token generator, and he gets big over time, so he can be a formidable blocker. I like it. I don't think I'll run it. I don't really have a good 1-drop slot because I like to go Scryland, untap land, Caryatid, and just go from there. So, I mean, I guess a 1-drop's alright in my deck, but I don't know. I probably won't run them. I try and get green mana out early on, so if I put too much strain on getting white mana there, too, I think my deck would kind of reel back and not like that. So next card, this was very interesting. More counter interaction, and that goes very well with a Johnny Mentor of Heroes, because you can just give all your creatures counters, play Abzan Ascendancy, and then it gives them all like vigilance forever, essentially. It's a 5-mana 5/7, which is a great blocker, and I can definitely slide that in my deck. I'm not too sure if I will yet. I'm definitely going to test with it. But it says untap each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it during each other player's untap step. So if somebody's trying to tap down your creatures and hit you, then you have to go and, well, they think they can swing at you because you can get in for a lot of damage. They don't block. You play down an Ivory Tusk Fortress, and then it untaps, and so they go to attack, but they attack phase, or combat phase, my bad, and they can't successfully swing at you. They don't have the Abzan Tri-land out, or Wedge land, say it as you will. They do have the American one out, and they do have Red, White, Black. Red, White, Black was one of the first spoilers they put out. So now there's some other cards that sort of fit into really wherever, as long as they have the colors. So we'll start with End Hostilities, destroy all creatures and permanents attached to those creatures. So I don't think that can't really affect stuff that's Banishing Lighted or Detention Sphered, even though Detention Sphere will be out. But anything that's exiled under something will not leave because it's not on the battlefield. Then there's Bitter Revelation for 4 mana. Look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 2 of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. You lose 2 life. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think it's a common, as you can see. It probably won't see very much play at all. Maybe a little bit in black-white mid-range if that hangs around. It's losing Obsidian and Blood Baron, so it probably won't. But And then here's probably one of the biggest cards is Sarkhan the Dragon Speaker, who is a playoff of Sarkhan Vol. And this is actually his homeland. So they've known about Tarkir for a while now, and they've just been waiting to actually do something with it. And Sarkhan, the story behind it is that when he was a kid, he lived on a plane where it was like run with dragons, but he never was able to actually see them. And now that he lives on Tarkir, he sees dragons all over the place. So they called him the Dragon Speaker because he's sort of a master of them now, and he knows everything about them. Yeah, I don't really like. I'll go through all his abilities. His +1 is until end of turn, he becomes a 4/4 red dragon with flying, indestructible, and haste. So you can play him down, swing in, unless somebody can exile him at instant speed, which I think there's one new card. I think it's right down here. Yeah, Utter End. That's going to be the only card that's really going to protect you against Sarkhan very effectively. So I'm probably going to sideboard that if I can get my hands on it, just as a removal package. And then his -3 is Sarkhan the Dragon Speaker deals 4 damage to target creature. So he can sort of take over a game, I guess. He'll start killing off your creatures, swinging in for 4. And then his -6 ability is you get an emblem with, at the beginning of your draw step, draw 2 additional cards, and at the beginning of your end step, discard your hand. So I guess it's sort of thinking you're going to draw into a bunch of small stuff, play it all, do a bunch of damage, and then have no hand to discard. But I don't really like his emblem. It'll probably see play. He'll see play, definitely. But I don't think the emblem will ever really impact games that hugely. Thorin Solemn Visitor is one card that I mentioned earlier, and I am super excited about this card. I tested it on untap.in. It's a beta site for playing on, and this is just so much fun. I'm putting it in for Blood Baron and Whip of Erebos. I don't know how many I'm running. I'm probably going to get my hands on as many as I can. And at the pre-release, I'm definitely going to try and trade for him, because I don't really think too many people are going to be running him. He just fits in so well with my deck. Flying and reach are one of the things that my deck lacks. I have Arbor Colossus sideboarded. Yeah, it's a really fun card to play with. Up to 7. Get his emblem and start pumping out vampires, giving them lifelink. You pretty much have the game, because they can play creatures every turn, but if they're playing off the top of their deck's gonna really hurt from that. So I like him a lot. He comes in at 4, pops at 6, which is great. So did Sarkhan. So I'm excited about that. Next is Utter End. That's a card I'm definitely going to try and get as well. Exile target non-land permanent. It's such... I played against it, and it is such an annoying card. It just made me want to run it so bad. It's 4 mana, 1 white, 1 black, so it's not very hard on the mana base. Exile target non-land permanent at instant speed. It's like insane. It's such a good removal spell. It's gonna see a ton of play, and I'm worried about it, but at the same time, I'm gonna be super happy that they made it. And then another card is Sagu Mauler. Trample, 6-drop, 6/6 with trample and hexproof. And he has morph, so you can pay him for 5, a green, a blue, and 3 after you morph him. That's a really good card. I don't want to play against it, just because it's sort of overpowered. A 6-drop, 6/6 with trample and hexproof. I have stuff that can deal with that, but it's not going to be fun to try and do it. Luckily, they came out with Utter End, so I'll have even more removal in my package. And I think that was really all the cards in my wedge that I liked. I'm just gonna go up here, see if there's anything I noticed that I liked a lot. I liked Rattleclaw Mystic. That's gonna be a good card, especially in here, because you can get that wedge land in there, Rattleclaw Mystic. You can get Scrylands, everything you need, and your land base is gonna be fixed. Crackling Doom is going to be really huge in that deck, because that's a really fast deck. So getting rid of their biggest creature, whether it's like 5 power, 6 power, anything like that, is going to be really, really huge if it gets to late game. I'll see that color deck running 4 of those. Well, I'll predict that. Dragon Style Twins I like. I'm not a huge fan of the prowess mechanic. Like, I can see it being fun, especially in red-blue, but seeing as I'm in junk and there's not much prowess, I'm just not a huge fan of it. What else is here? Ice Feather Aven is a 2/2 flyer for 2, so I think that'll see some play, not a ton, but I guess you can flip it up at instant speed. So you just leave it as a morph 2/2 and don't do anything with it, just leave it there. And then somebody goes to kill a creature, flip it up, return that creature to your hand, and then have a 2/2 flyer. So I like that card. Then there's the Ascendancies, which I really like. Let's go to Temur Ascendancy. Creatures you control have haste, and whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. So I guess they're going to have a lot of big creatures. They're in green-red already, which is going to be pretty big. And then they have blue splashed in there. So I think they'll have a few big creatures, but it's not going to be as big. You might put 2 here. Alright, I'm on 16 minutes battery left. Mardu Ascendancy. Whenever a non-token creature you control attacks, put a 1/1 goblin creature token onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. So I think Goblin Rabble Master is definitely going to go in with that color scheme. That color scheme is looking really good, the red, white, black. I don't know the name for it. Comment and tell me it. I might just look it up, but I haven't really done too much talking to any viewers here, and I'd like to do a lot more of it, so just let me know. And then you can sacrifice it, and creatures you control get +0/+3. So like I said, it's a very aggro-based wedge, and it's like aggro, burn. I wouldn't be shocked if there's some good black-white cards that fit in there, but I'm really liking that color scheme, and I'm sort of thinking I might want to switch over to it. I'll have to see how those decks turn out. But now let's go on to the other cons here real quick before the battery dies. We have Zergo Helm Smasher, which is a 5-drop 7/2 haste that attacks each combat available. It's indestructible as long as it's your turn. So when it's attacking, it's indestructible, and that's the 7 power. If you can figure out a way to make it not attack, it is a terrible blocker. But its last ability is really good. This thing, whenever a creature dealt damage by Zergo Helm Smasher this turn dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Zergo Helm Smasher. So really anything under 7 toughness, if it blocks it, Zergo Helm Smasher just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and doesn't stop. So that's looking pretty scary right now. But luckily I'm going to have all that removal in my deck to deal with it, so I should be okay. Sidisi Blood Brood Tyrant, not Blood, I take that back. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, so it's looking like a Titan, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard, so it mills yourself. Oh, okay. And whenever one or more creature cards, ooh, put a 2/2 black zombie token. So it's a zombie generator, and that is very scary. Especially waste not in here. Um, we can have. There's one other zombie generator thing, and then in green you can have a lot of populate. Well, actually, is that mechanic going in standard? I think it is, but still, there's ways to make those tokens into an army. And then onto the blue, white, red wedge, which I'm super excited about, is a 5-drop 3/2 first strike hexproof called Narset Enlightened Master. And whenever it attacks, exile the top 4 cards of your library. Until end of turn, you can cast non-creature cards exiled with it without paying their mana cost. So I think that deck is going to be heavily in burn and prowess. So I don't see it being one of the biggest colors, but I think it'll work, and it's going to see play. Alright, so I think that's all for this session. I really like what they've released so far, and I'm pretty excited for the pre-release coming up on the 16th, I think it is. It might be the 18th. But, yeah. Comment, like, subscribe, whatever you want. Negative comments, whatever. I don't really care. As long as it's not reportable stuff on my page. So, yeah. I will see you all later, and enjoy yourselves. May you draw well.